Adequate notice of this meeting, as required by the Open Public Meetings Act, was provided through the posting, mailing, and filing of the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings of the Town Council on December 8th, 2021. The notice was on that date posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, provided to the Westfield Leader in Smart Ledger, and filed with the clerk of the town of Westfield. Ms. Walsh, you may have a roll call.
Mayor Brindle?
Here.
Councilmembers Hapgood?
Here.
Harlan?
Here.
LaGripa?
Here.
Katz?
Here.
Mackey?
Here.
Contract?
Here.
Daria?
Here.
Here. Please rise for the invocation of the building council guardian.
Receive blessings on the tasks before us. Bless our efforts with clear insight, deliberations with wisdom, our work with clarity and accuracy, as with decisions with impartiality. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Nice to present to a big crowd tonight. A couple of comments, Mayor. I'll keep it short tonight. There's a lot to go through. Two topics. One, town council changes. Every time the residents or you come back every 2 weeks, other things are changing. Window treatments from 1954 are now gone. TVs are in the process of being installed. Tonight, for the presentation we're going to have, this is a temporary setup. I want to thank Company Horizon, who will be using to do the room here. They were gracious enough to do this for us tonight for this presentation, but this is only temporary. A lot more things to come. New window treatments, new lighting for the entire room, paint, more technology, a permanent podium with a lot of technology in it, so that not only Town Council, Planning Board, Board of Adjustment, Historic Preservation Commission, other boards and commissions that might use this room will have access to technology, and the court, of course, as well, to do lots of things in this room going forward. So thanks for bearing with us, and I know we need a paint job too. I know that's the last thing we're going to do once everything's done, and that'd be the nice finishing touch. But thanks for your patience, and I want to thank again the temporary setup for tonight. One last topic for me, paving. Just a reminder of what's going on. The town actually had about 5.5 miles of paving that we awarded a contract earlier this year for. That is expected to be finished by the end of this month, probably early next week. That's about 20 some odd roads, over 5.5 miles of road. 15 of them, of the number of roads are done already. 7 more are being worked on right now. Currently we have the Prospect Oak Tree Pass grid up there. That's being paved this week, I believe. The other area in Ward 2 is Drummond, Woodbrook Circle, Sanders Circle. That whole area has been milled, and that'll be paved in the next 2 weeks, or next couple of days, excuse me. And our projects that we've awarded are going to be finished probably early next week, which is great. 2, utility work. We all have utility work fatigue, myself included. But a couple things for the public to know. There are now 6 open jobs by Elizabethtown Gas going on in town. Some of them are coming to an end. When I say coming to an end, coming to an end of Elizabethtown Gas work, meaning their gas main work, connections to homes, which means either most of those areas will actually be scheduled for paving. Hope most of them will be done by this fall, by early November. One of the areas that will be done by November is the East Broad Street corridor and all the roads off that. People have suffered through. It's a very busy road there. Obviously, a lot of inconveniences happening there. Elizabethtown Gas tells Dave Vitale and I, our town engineer, that those roads will be finished by early November from not only gas main work but paving. In addition to that, another busy roadway, Broadway Avenue, has been patched for quite a while. That's a New Jersey American Water job. Broadway's main road from basically Willow Grove area down to Lee Drive and some streets off there as well. That is also supposed to be finished or paved in October. So reminder to the public, a couple things about road paving every day, both utility work and town work. We do Nixle updates every morning to let people know where the updates are, where the road closures are. Thanks to the police department for doing that every morning. You can go to our website every day and see what roads are complete, what roads are upcoming, not only for the town work, but for utility work. And we've still got another busy, almost 2 months of paving to go, assuming the weather holds. But thank you to everyone for their patience. It's a lot of inconvenience for a greater good. Paved streets and better infrastructure. So again, that's a lot more to come. I'll have updates at every meeting, and again, visit our website and sign up for our Nixle account. Every morning you get an update where the road closures are, so you can avoid them from a traffic perspective. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Jim. And as you all know, we have a very important presentation that's happening this evening, and so in light of that, I'm actually going to deliver some remarks from the podium before introducing our presenters. So good evening, everybody, and thank you for those who are here in the chambers and to those who are joining us online tonight. As you know, tonight, we'll be hearing a presentation by Hudson's Bay Company StreetWorks Development for a proposed public-private partnership with the town of Westfield. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody there is no vote tonight. There is no vote on the agenda for this proposal, and rather it is the introduction of the proposal, which will then go through a lengthy public input process over several months before any legislative action is taken for the council's consideration for a vote. So I just want to be clear on that. In terms of process and what you can expect tonight, the presentation is being made to the governing body, to this group right here, providing an opportunity for members of the council to ask questions. Public comment, as always, is accepted in person and is directed to the council and not the presenters. We are live streaming for viewing only via Facebook, where I hope many residents are watching. And as always, the replay will be available afterwards on TV 36, YouTube, and Facebook. So the proposal you're going to hear tonight is the culmination of over 3 years of collaboration with and input from residents and the community organizations across our town. I just want to take this opportunity to recap for you how we got to this very exciting moment. As we have all witnessed firsthand, our downtown has struggled over the past 10 to 15 years due to a variety of factors. The shift to online shopping, the loss of daily foot traffic from employers who departed, and long-standing issues around parking and infrastructure that have not been adequately addressed for many years. Neighboring towns, on the other hand, have taken measures during that time to revitalize their downtowns, leaving Westfield even further behind. After taking office in 2018, one of my first priorities was addressing the inevitable challenge of Lord & Taylor in light of the shifting retail landscape. You didn't have to be a genius to see, in light of all the other national chains that were closing, what the possibilities were for that beloved store. So to that end, I facilitated discussions with the top executives of the parent company, Hudson's Bay Company, to ensure there were open lines of communication with the town about the future of the property. When Lord & Taylor closed in 2020, accelerated by the pandemic, it lent an even greater urgency to addressing our downtown challenges. And fortunately, our relationship with HBC, Hudson's Bay Company, was established. More importantly, our community had already embarked on a journey to create a long-term vision for Westfield, which resulted in a roadmap for future progress with a specific focus on restoring the health and vibrancy of our downtown. This process, driven by your input, resulted in an updated master plan reexamination which was adopted in 2019 and now informs how we, the residents of Westfield, want to achieve our shared vision. And you have probably heard me say many times that it's the instruction manual for what we're giving to anybody who's interested in investing in our town. So since Lord & Taylor closed, Hudson's Bay Company, now HBC StreetWorks Development, has been engaged and committed to Westfield. As our largest downtown property owner and taxpayer, they have a vested interest in the long-term vitality of our town, and their history of community involvement has proven them to be a trusted partner. In order to devise a plan that reflects not only what Westfield wants and needs, but more importantly, who Westfield is, they pored over our master plan, spending the past 2 years meeting with residents, community groups, and business and property owners, attending many of our favorite community events, hosting Facebook Live seminars on their areas of expertise, and spending time here among us, simply just listening and learning. And now, guided by the cumulative input from all of these efforts, as well as Westfield's top-flight team of redevelopment professionals and the master plan re-examination, HBC StreetWorks Development will share their proposal with us this evening. With a commitment to maintaining Westfield's distinct character, they are proposing a downtown for the future. A downtown that will deliver a vibrant commercial hub for generations to enjoy. Resolve long-standing traffic, parking, and congestion challenges, providing engaging spaces for community gathering, art, and events, and result in unprecedented new sources of commercial tax revenue. Their proposal is designed to celebrate the best of our community and reaffirm Westfield's long-standing reputation as one of the premier places to live in the state. This is an opportunity to shape the downtown we want our kids to inherit. One that serves as a national model for a post-COVID Main Street community that prioritizes people over cars, dedicating itself to sustainability, walkability, inclusivity, and affordability, and one that meets the needs and desires of all of our residents in downtown businesses, including those who have been here for generations, as well as those who have just arrived. Westfield's potential partnership with HBC StreetWorks Development proposes a historic investment in our downtown that would benefit every taxpayer and is only possible through a proposed pilot agreement, which will deliver $200 million in incremental tax revenue over the next 30 years, enabling Westfield to undertake a wide range of important initiatives that include, but are certainly not limited to, stabilizing resident taxes and improving property values, reinvigorating the town's public spaces, repurposing underutilized flat surface parking lots, optimizing and creating user-friendly parking, improving pedestrian connectivity, specifically between the north and south sides, building a long overdue new firehouse, and repurposing our existing historic one into a vibrant community space, upgrading infrastructure and improving climate resiliency, implementing meaningful traffic mitigation measures, memorializing and upgrading our very popular open equipment, building new playing fields and upgrading our parks, providing assistance to our schools to support priority capital projects. Under our current tax structure, we, like most municipalities, could never support most of these public improvements. This partnership represents a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to realize our collective aspirations for the future of Westfield. I'd like to thank our team of redevelopment professionals who have worked diligently with HBC StreetWorks Development for the past 3 years to get us to this moment. Specifically, Economic Development Advisor and 28-year Westfield resident Liz Jeffrey, redevelopment planners Phil Abramson and Chris Colley, redevelopment legal counsel Bob Goldsmith and Steve Lennick, finance professional Bob Powell, redevelopment bond counsel and Westfield resident Matt Jessup, traffic management consultant John Federico, and parking consultant Jim Zullo. Their collective vast experience ensures that this proposal delivers on the priorities that matter to all of us: traffic and safety, parking, financial health, and growth and smart growth that moves our town forward while staying true to our town's historical character. I would also like to thank Town Administrator Jim Goulet, because nothing gets done without him, for his expertise and guidance, and to Finance Committee Chair Linda Hackwood, and Code Review and Property Committee Chair Mark Parmalee for their leadership in helping to guide a proposal that maximizes benefits to Westfield residents and taxpayers. It's a very exciting time to be a Westfield resident. There is a tremendous amount of momentum building in our downtown, as we have seen with last week's announcement about transformative donation and progress at the Rialto, as well as the recent surge in downtown business openings, including over 30 just this year. With the wind at our back, now is the time to seize our future and set up Westfield for long-term success. The proposal tonight from HBC StreetWorks Development is just the beginning of the conversation. It's not a final presentation. As you assess their proposed project, it's important to remember what changes are not being considered. And that is our traditional downtown as we know it. The only development being proposed is on flat surface parking lots, which are currently not delivering any foot traffic to our stores, public benefit to our residents, or tax revenue to the town. Our team of professionals have worked hard to bring forth a well-scaled, financially compelling proposal that reflects the community's guiding principles for a vibrant downtown, honoring our past while planning for our future. It's now up to you to take it from here. The final outcome will only be as good as the public input they receive, and they will let you know this evening how you can participate in that process. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Doug Adams, Senior Vice President of HBC StreetWorks Development. Thank you all for your attention.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, for that introduction. And thank you for inviting us here and for the council to speak to this group and to speak to the public that are here and are participating online. We appreciate the time, and we're going to take about the next 30 to 45 minutes to run through an overview of our proposed project. StreetWorks is the real estate development arm of Hudson Bay, the longest continuously operating company in the North Americas. We have assembled a first-class team, I'll show you here, of external experts who have brought to bear a lot of expertise over the last 3 years working with the great team here in Westfield to bring this proposal together. But really what separates us from a lot of other developers is the depth of our internal team that works on this project. I will introduce some that are here tonight. First, Ken Narver, our Chairman, Chief Development Officer, and co-founder of StreetWorks. Carolina Simon, our Vice President of Development, who oversees the project. Justin Poulos, who is our lead on this project and oversees the day-to-day activities. Richard Heaps is our head of design. He is also a co-founder of StreetWorks. And Ann Landau is the design manager working with him on this project exclusively. Trinisa Den Users, our Senior Vice President of Development. And Du Yu is our development analyst here. There are many other people back in our home office, but we wanted to make some room for the folks here today. We began work in earnest on this, as the mayor said, about 3 years ago. And I'm very proud, and we are very proud of what we're going to present here tonight. We have many goals for this development, but we really had 3 key guiding principles that served and influenced every decision we made. First, do no harm. Lord & Taylor and our building have been here in this community for decades. We want to honor and need to honor that heritage, but also the success and character that is in Westfield, the town itself. Second, we need to connect. The Lord & Taylor building, which was actually here very early, is never fully connected in our mind with the downtown business community. And our project, which you'll see, will take the public realm
connect our building with the train station downtown and the downtown commercial area to make a true triangle that brings everything together and will create long-term sustained vibrancy for the downtown area. And third, and probably most importantly, is to stay true to what was outlined and encouraged in the town's master plan reexamination that occurred at the same time we were working with the town on this project, which Richard Heaps will talk about, is so fortuitous. It's unusual that we found this sort of confluence of events that's helped this project take shape. We believe we've succeeded in bringing forward an outstanding proposal, but we know there is a lot more work to do, and you'll hear about the work we're going to do and how we're going to do it with the community, because we are sincere that the community input, and this is not just here, but in every project we work on, is critically important to making the plan the best plan it could be. So thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Richard Heaps, who will take it from here.
Right here. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
We all good? Good evening, Madam Mayor and councilors, folks in the audience. It's really my delight to be here. It's a dream come true, technically. A 3-year-old dream come true. What I'd like to do as we start this is maybe give you a little bit of background, a little bit of nuance to how we think of this, and quite frankly, all the projects we work on, because we've been very successful. And we've been successful in either creating a new or saving, in many cases, cities and towns, Main Street areas. It's been my passion since 1988, which means I'm getting older. I started StreetWorks with my partner Ken almost 25 years ago, hard to believe, to do exactly this, to work on urban or town streetscapes that created great places, not good, great places that people love. That's our metric. Yeah, we have a return on investment, etc. Those are very important, but how we measure it is to the extent that people continue or even more so love where they live. Seems kind of silly, but as I've looked back over 25 years, it is the primary metric of what matters. I will tell you the truth, and by the way, we've done this, I don't know how many times, 15 times, 20 times, etc. We are very familiar. We've done it all over the country. We do the same process every time. People go, oh, no, you're kidding. We don't want that process. Yeah, you want that process. We work on the town as we find it and as it is. I don't try to make Boca Raton into Westfield, nor would you want me to, and vice versa. So we.
What's the smallest town you've done over the years?
Well, technically speaking, I did the main part of the Hopi Reservation for 20 Hopi Indians.
Can I just ask that the council refer your questions?
Oh, I just have to.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
We'll have
So-
plenty of questions at the end.
So, and we've done many towns, like what you see up here is a town in West Hartford, Connecticut, not terribly far from here, that we did in the early 2000s. And many of the things we're talking about tonight, we did there, for example. And I'm happy, as the mayor knows, to take anybody there anytime, any day, to introduce you to it. But our main goal is to enhance and maintain and work collaboratively with you and the citizens of Westfield to figure out how to continue enhancing it and growing it in a way that is a Westfield way. That's the most important thing I can say. And we've learned a lot, but we don't know everything. And we will continue to learn. Number one, StreetWorks principle. We create places, as I said, that people love. That is our metric. By the way, if they love it physically and socially and economically, they will also love it spiritually and it will continue to enhance their life as a community. That is our definition of a great place. A second goal of that is not to only enhance it, but to do it in a Westfield way, whatever that means. I will tell you, Ken and I did StreetWorks for 20-some years. We were fortunate enough in our lives to hook up with HBC and Richard Baker and begin to work together. They knew they had a large portfolio of opportunity about to arise with closing of Lord & Taylor's, et cetera. We knew that we were looking for some corporate structure and some reinforcement to try to do these things. They are hard, and they take passion and commitment, which we have. So we did that in 2019. Lo and behold, I'm looking at the portfolio, and here's this place I never heard of. No offense, Mayor. I'm from Colorado, called Westfield, and I said, well, let's go see what's going on there. Let's just start. And I run into this thing called the Master Plan Reexamination. I've been doing this for 40 years, never heard of such a thing. Once I saw it, I didn't know what to think. It was this list, you can't read it from here. Trust me, I can tell you what's on it. It's every kind of thing you might think of to make suburban places better. Everything from look at mixed use, add more bike racks, more open space, et cetera. You go down that list, and I'm like going, what the hell is this? This is like the ultimate in your dating profile. And I'm like going, wow, just check, this is good, good. I bought everything I read because it's true. And so we have used that, for better or for worse, as our initial guidelines for our proposal. I can tell you, without a doubt, we are fulfilling those specific little check marks more than any developer you will ever meet, guarantee it, because we agree with them, and we think that they're important. Secondly, we also try to be good listeners. It's fine to find a developer that's a good talker. I bet you even have some in this town. We've been listening for 3 years. I want to figure it out because I love this place and it's special. And we're going to keep doing that in Westfield in ways that make sense financially and exception. So you're going to hear tonight just a quick, you're not going to hear much from me, but you're going to hear a quick explanation of all the components of our proposal. Not just physical, not just design and that stuff. That's fun. I was trained as an architect. I get that. We need to talk about the market. We need to talk about costs. We need to talk about all of that. So I'm going to be helped by my colleagues here. That's them right there, starting from Ken on over. We're going to talk about all of those things to the extent that we can in a half hour. Can't explain everything, but we're going to take a good first crack at it. And please know two things. The mayor stole one of them. We're only proposing to build things on parking spaces, on parking lots. And if you're telling me, no, Richard, you can't do that, that's quintessentially Westfield, then I'm going to stand here and say, you can do better. And all you got to do is fly in from anywhere over Westfield and you go, what? Where's all the stuff? So we're only building on parking lots. We do have some structures that are embraced in that. The 2 train terminals or stations are one, and you've gone a long ways towards getting the north one cranking with the new restaurant. That's exciting. But there are other buildings, such as the Lord & Taylor, that are on our property. So I'm going to tell you the first secret. We're not tearing it down, okay? That we're not proposing to do. I'll be the first one to tell you I don't get why, other than there was a lot of prom dresses sold there. There was a lot of sitting on Santa Claus' lap. And I did actually, I will not say who, met a counselor who met the Westfield Police there for the first time. This person, it's a he, by the way, learned to meet the Westfield Police by throwing rocks at the train from behind the building. That's what Lord & Taylor is. That's what they have been, and it's an important site in town. So we're not building, we're not tearing any buildings down. We're only building where there's parking, and I hope that you'll find that it's a vast improvement. By the time we're done together, I guarantee it will be. So this is an interesting slide. These are pictures of Quimby. I've even asked the mayor, did you think 4 years ago, before COVID, that you'd be doing yoga in the middle of Quimby Street? I don't need to hear your answer, because if you say yes, you're lying. So that's just to show what can happen with the right frame of mind, etc. What you're going to see tonight are little sketches. These are sketches of how we envision it, not down to the molecule, but what the character of a permanent Quimby Street could be, with special paving, special lighting, who knows, maybe even a splash fountain or whatever. As we walk through the project, we're going to try to illustrate the best we can. Just take it for that. This is what we would love to do. I, by the way, have done 4 festival marketplaces around the country. I know how they work. I know how they don't work. So we're not trying something out for the first time. Everything we're going to show you, we have done. And I think that's an important thing. Finally, I wanted to mention something about your collection of architecture here. And I'm not going to make you defend it. It's not a thing that needs to be defended. It's charming. It's part of your brand. It's part of what makes things lovely here. And whether you color your buildings like a bunch of crayons or whatever, that's all the great stuff that's here. So what we're going to talk to you about is how do we figure out, we got all this product and whatever, how do we figure out what it should look like? We have a way of listening and propelling and speaking to citizens and testing ideas and getting their response back. When we come back, we're talking now about massing and height and whatever else. The actual architecture and character of your downtown will continue to be the architecture and character of your downtown. And we're going to ask you and the community here to help us figure it out together. We're not afraid to listen, and we're not afraid to change our mind for a better idea. We may take credit for it. That's the only thing you have to worry about. So we have a commitment to contextual design and doing design that fits in, even if it doesn't. So what I'd like to end with tonight is the introduction of what we're calling One Westfield Place. We like the name. It talks about place as the driving value here. It talks about one place shared by all of the citizens of Westfield. This is a unique site between the north and the south. I can't tell you how many hours I've spent trying to figure out the north and south part of Westfield. I don't have it figured out other than I know it is. And we think this location at the trains, on either side of the trains, have a way to reinvest Westfield as the one place for all of Westfield. And that's our mission. I'm not going to read to you our mission statement here, but it's very clear. We're going to do this together. That is our thing. Start with public space and do it together. And to do that, I'm going to introduce the first of our 4 folks here, which is Carolina, to talk about some of the developer stuff, you know, money and cost and entitlement and all these things. And then from there, she'll pass it on to Ann, who's going to go through just the really simple components. Okay, you got one of these, you got one of those, etc. So you understand what's underlying this. And then Justin, you can tell by looking at him, is going to be dealing with parking and traffic. I'll be having to leave for a little bit, but I'll come back at the end and tie it all up. And I thank you so much for your wonderful smiles, and it's good to be in Westfield. It's been too long. So, Carolina?
Apparently it's still hard to hear. We're on Facebook, so
Yeah.
if you can lean into the mic, even if it's
Yeah.
awkward, please do.
I got the notes. Okay, can everyone hear me? Yes?
I'm gonna leave it even for the Facebook people that can't hear.
Where is Jim? Jim is, how's this?
Move the microphone towards you.
Move the microphone towards you.
Even more?
Yep, that's
Or
good.
this one?
Skinny.
Skinny one. Okay. According to my DNA, I'm 45% Italian, so staying like this might be a little difficult for me. We'll see. We'll see how I do. Well, folks, I have to be here, so I will give my life with you. So, it's really a privilege to be here tonight with you. My name is Carolina Simon. I'm a VP of Development, working on behalf of all of us really collectively on this wonderful project. And what I was hoping to do just now is to put into context some of these words that have been introduced here for us. So, what you see on the screen for folks that are not drafty like I'm not, what you see is an aerial photograph. And this aerial photograph centers around the train station. And tell me if you can see the arrows that are being pointed on the screen. So everything that I will explain to you will go from the train station outwards, which means that west of the train station, north of the train station. Sorry. All right. Thank you. Is this better, Jim? Okay, well, just a little device, who knew? So the way in which I'll describe this to all of us is really from the train station outwards. So I'll describe west, north, south, just to give you a sense of orientation. So when I was thinking about coming here tonight, I was thinking about privilege and what a privilege it is to be here. And I'll tell you from my perspective, there are two reasons where I think this is really special. One is for us, lovers of the built environment, sort of speak, it's really a privilege to be property owners in the town that we are working with. I think there's no doubt that our success has to be your success and vice versa. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to tap into the vision that you all have for Westfield. The second reason, which is a privilege, is we have been working on this for over 3 years now. Half of it have been with our sweatpants on, and half of it has been in person. And I can't tell you how grateful we are for all the folks, including some of you on the audience that have been tapping into Zoom to voice your concerns, and some of council members that already have voiced their opinions and some of their concerns. So issues of density, the infamous Christmas tree, some concerns regarding traffic, we really hope to address them as a beginning with you tonight, and we hope to continue that dialogue in the future. You will see Tranisa will present to us our preview center, which is located on 76 Elm Street. We're going to be there for over 2 years. So truly, this is just the beginning for us, and for us to collectively comprehend what is on the table today. So let me start with the west zone, so west of the train station, around our Lord and Taylor site. There are a couple of main things happening on that site. The first is that we are maintaining the Lord and Taylor building, and we're adaptively reusing it. What are our plans there? We have planned about 100,000 square feet. To give you an idea, that building today is 143,000 square feet. Some of that building, 100,000 square feet of it, will be planned as office, creative office space. About 13,000 square feet, give or take, will be curated retail, calibrated to complement downtown and to serve the office tenants, the new residents, as well as existing residents around. In addition to that, we are having 2 new residential apartment buildings. These buildings, when people are concerned with density, height, and appropriate level of scale at the street level, I can tell you that Anne is going to go through some of those treatments and some of our thoughts as to how we can create a very comfortable and appropriate scale, meaning appropriate height at the street level. So flanking the Lord and Taylor site, we have these two buildings. We have a total of 138 units, give or take. That's the maximum that we are planning. And these units are focused on the 55 plus active community. And why did we do that? We looked at all of the market fundamentals, market analysis, and we felt that there was a huge opportunity for us to allow folks to age in place, to be able to cater to that segment of the population. And we feel that the Lord and Taylor site is the perfect bookend, if you will, to the neighborhood immediately north of it. Our hope is that North Avenue is no longer your divide, if you will. Quite frankly, it's a road with an amazing scale. We are very fortunate not to be next to a highway system. And so the sheer presence of our new structures and buildings will really tie that street together and increase your level of safety with improved streetscapes, et cetera. We'll show you some of that. Across the street from the existing Lord and Taylor site is a little row of townhomes. And we have today about 16 of them. And these are also for 55 plus, also rental townhomes. But they're a different typology. These are townhomes, 4-story tall, and so smaller structures. So we are very mindful of the neighborhood that it's immediately behind the townhomes, that is. And so the scale lowers and it buffers between the building across the street, the Lord and Taylor building, and the residential. Also belonging to us, meaning HBC StreetWorks, is a smaller parcel on the corner of North and Clark. And that parcel, I can't tell you how many times we've heard concerns about the height of other residential projects that were being proposed in that area. We're very focused on decreasing the height. We've heard some of your council members in that, from that sense, and we've already decreased 1 floor of that residential building. We really look forward. We understand that it's a little bit challenging, and there was a lot of dialogue that the previous development spurred in that area, and we really want to hear from you. We've proposed something, but we want to hear your feedback on it. And that building will be catered to families, young families, and young professionals, not to the 55 plus, although they can live there should they want to. Moving on, I'll go towards the east. 34. Moving on towards the east side. Oh, and before I leave the west, sorry, just two things. Parking. All of the parking on the Lord and Taylor site is being provided below grade. For the residents, it will be dedicated parking. For the office workers and visitors will be shared. So, and the parking you will see from Anne is done in such a way that you would not know there's parking as if you walk your dog along North Avenue. So it's done in a way as to not affect the presence of the street and the experience of that environment. The parking below the North and Clark building also happens below that building on a podium, and the site is such that we're able to take advantage of the slope in that area to tuck the parking, so it's not visible also from the majority of the street. So moving on towards the east side in relation to the train station, I'll continue on the buildings, and I'm going to tie everything to a conversation about public realm and connectivity. Towards the corner of North and Central is a public garage. That public garage is replacing a portion of the surface parking lots that the new buildings are removing, sort of speak. In front of that public parking garage, there are about 300 parking spaces in that parking garage. In front of it, we have a smaller building, 30-plus unit building, also caters more like loft style for those younger folks that are really taking advantage to the proximity of the train station to go to work, etc. That concludes the north side of the train station. So let's go to the south side of the train station for a moment. On the south side, where you have the majority of your surface parking lot, in this case that we would be displacing, we are planning 210,000 square feet of a mass timber office building. Some of you may say, office? That's insane. That's a really big area in a post-COVID environment. And that's a very much of a fair question or a fair concern. I'll give you some of our thoughts about it and for us to further explore throughout this process. We have looked at the entire New Jersey market and beyond to understand what would be the right size of office of this product in a town like Westfield. There's no doubt that Westfield has amazing, what we call in the industry, real estate fundamentals, which are economic viability, great credit, great population, great demographics, and all of that makes this town extremely attractive to new businesses. Our goal is not to oversize anything. We really want to be able to right-size this program. But we understand that in a post-COVID environment, quality services and amenities really matter. Like I can tell you that we all would like to stay at our homes a little longer if we could. What we found is that even if companies are providing flexible hours to their employees, that the area requirements that they need to provide when their employees are at work physically at the office is very comparable and still the same to today. Companies are finding now that we're all a little bit more mature in terms of the longevity of COVID thus far, that in order for you to maintain culture and a spirit of collaboration with your colleagues and coworkers, you really need to touch base physically every so often. So those are some of our thoughts and considerations just to explain to you the mindset of sizing about 200,000 square feet of office space. This building will be a mass timber building. Justin will go through that when we focus on sustainability, but we're truly excited and we feel very comfortable with that size. You will see from a massing perspective how the team have addressed that and broken up the building so it's very comfortable from the street. Across the town green, we also have a parking facility. And that parking facility houses also the spaces that had been displaced on the south side. There's over 300 parking spots in that facility. And that facility also includes something that we really need a better name for it, but the mobility hub. The mobility hub, it's nothing special from the perspective of its name, but it's basically a space that it's programmed to cater to alternative modes of transportation. So if you have been, contemplating biking a little more, or if you wanted to have alternatives to how to get from your house to the train station, we're allowing and designing a space that it's really intentional for those looking for an alternative to their own vehicles, whether your spouse is dropping you off or you're going on your scooter or your bike or you're taking an Uber or hopefully you're walking, because our goal is to really provide that connectivity and not feel like South Avenue is a little bit unprotected and unsafe to walk at, especially at different times at night. So that concludes the program of buildings that we're planning here. Let me walk you through our public realm. The public realm really hinders around the train station, to the north of the train station and the south of it. So on the north side, the biggest move, so to speak, that we are making is that we are aligning the entrance to the north square with Elm Street. We've heard that there were a lot of issues, the town's consultants as well as ours, collectively put our heads together on creating a solution or a conceptual solution at this stage to address some of those concerns. And you will see, and hopefully you will come to our preview center once you see our physical model, is that the intention is that we wanted to create the town green, the town square, as one uniform surface that would be curbless. So the best, and forgive me for the mundane domestic analogy here, but this is the one that I can think of, is imagine being in your living room and having the dining table and the sofas and no carpet. So you have your wood floors, if you will, or your carpet all the way, and you can see one continuous space. And you don't feel like it's just the furniture is dividing the spaces, right? The moment that you put a rug in the dining room, it furthers divide the space visually. So bringing it back to an open space in a town square situation, what we wanted is that the paving areas is seamless and continuous, and that the furniture, meaning benches, bollards, light fixtures, pedestrian lights, etc., posts, little planters, are the ones defining the space. And what that does is that it would allow all of us and the town and all its constituencies to be able to utilize the space in a much more flexible way. So if you wanted to celebrate Christmas around the Christmas tree or all other holidays throughout the year, that's very much a possibility. If you wanted to close it out for a very particular specific time, you could. But on a daily basis, you will serve multiple functions. You can go walk your dog, you can sit to meet a friend. Hopefully the firehouse will have turned into a community center by then. And you're able to utilize the space, but also there's someone dropping off their friend at the train station. So we hope that our design will enhance and promote all of those functions in a very cohesive way. On the south side, the story is not very dissimilar. It will be a little different physically in character just because of geometry and slopes that are different from one side to the other. However, the components and the concern with being a pedestrian-focused, activated space is the same. And tying this all together is improvements to the streetscape. And when we say streetscape, we really mean sidewalk conditions, right? There's nothing worse than walking in a very empty, concrete-looking sidewalk that does not feel safe and protected from the street. And our goal is to really create sidewalks that are wide enough, they're comfortable, but they have various elements ranging from planters, pedestrian lighting, to benches, to proper landscape. Finally, also tying this all together is this notion of sustainability. Sustainability happens with connectivity of bike paths, alternative modes of transportation, reduction of stormwater runoff. We have the advantage, I can say that it's not a heavy lift for us to really decrease stormwater runoff into your infrastructure by generating buildings with green roofs and terraces in which all of the water can be absorbed before it hits the streets. That's very important here. And we also have buildings that are highly energy efficient. The materials are sourced sustainably and responsibly. And especially in an office environment, we want well-being and health for everybody that comes to the office these days. So exchange rates and very systems and very technical ways of increasing indoor air quality are being taken into account too. So I pass on to Anne and Justin to go dive in a bit more detail some of these things that I just highlighted on our plan, and then I'll come back to go through the pilot program, explain to you a little bit what that is and what it isn't, and then Trinisa will tie it with the preview center, which we really look forward to having you. Thank you. It's a little
Good evening. It's nice to be here. My name is Anne. So I'm going to tell you a little bit, is this okay, by the way? I'm going to tell you all a little bit more about the sort of physical and design aspects of our project. So starting with the public open spaces, as both Richard and Carolina mentioned, these are really the heart of our project. They're really critical to our project, and we're frankly very excited about them. So we have the town green on the south side of the train station, the town square on the north side of the train station, and Quimby Street just north of that. So again, these are going to be heavily landscaped areas with beautiful paving, opportunities for gathering, the flexibility to hold all sorts of events all times of the year. And especially on Quimby, we've been here with you guys at all the events that you hold there currently, and we really want to use this as an opportunity to take it from good to great. It functions really well now. We think it's going to be, we can make it even more beautiful, and we can make it even more engaging, and we can make it even more pedestrian friendly, and it will be to the benefit of all the businesses that line that block, as well as all the residents that come to the events. I also want to note, between the town green and the town square, there is an existing pedestrian underpass. We're proposing some improvements to that to make it feel like an enhanced experience. It'll be better lit, it'll feel safer, it'll be more pleasant. And we feel like that's a really important way to try to join the north and the south side together, especially now that we're going to have these two amazing public spaces on either side. Okay, to get into the buildings a little bit, I'm going to start with our commercial projects. So again, we have the adaptive reuse of the Lord and Taylor building, and we have the mass timber building on the South Avenue site, south of the train station. So the Lord and Taylor building, we understand it has a lot of sentimental value here. It has a long history here. We really want to honor that as we move it into the future. And we think this is the right way to do it. So again, it's going to be 100,000 square feet of office with this retail, small-scale retail at the base, really to serve the office users as well as the surrounding neighborhoods. And we're honoring the existing building, in particular by keeping what we think is the most iconic part, which is the colonnade at the entry, which you see on the left side of the screen. To orient you a little bit, this view is if you're standing on North Avenue looking southeast. So we want to keep the bones of the building and make it identifiable as we breathe new life into it and make it really a new landmark for this part of town. Okay, our second office project. This building is actually two buildings, which I'll get to on the next slide. As Carolina mentioned, it's proposed to be mass timber construction, which is not only sustainable and has all kinds of other beneficial properties, health, efficiency, and otherwise. It's incredibly beautiful, and tenants love it, and it's beautiful to look at from the outside as well. So we're really excited about this. It hopefully will be the first one in New Jersey as well. A few things I want to note while we're on this slide. Similar to the Lord and Taylor building, we're proposing here to have about 12,000 square feet of retail on the ground floor. You can see that kind of lining South Avenue. Sorry, to orient you to this view, we're standing on South Avenue. We're standing at the east end of the building looking northwest. As we've noted, all of our buildings are being built on surface parking lots. When you walk by a surface parking lot on the sidewalk, it's not necessarily a very pleasant experience. You don't feel contained, you don't feel protected, particularly on these sites where it's parking lot and then train tracks, you don't feel protected from the train. So what we're trying to do here, and with all of our sites, is create a really pleasant and beautiful and intimate street environment. So in this case, we've decided to have one level of retail, which kind of mirrors what's across the street from it currently. There's predominantly one-level cafes and shops all along this stretch of South Avenue. And above that, we're pushing the office floors you see above back. So when you're on this street, you're going to feel the retail and everything else is going to recede. Additionally, this conceptual image is starting to show how we're thinking about breaking down the scale of this building. So this one portion of the building is divided into sort of three masses that make it feel like three distinct buildings. They have different expressions, they have different materials. Again, these are conceptual, but we think it's important to show you guys how we're thinking about moving these ideas forward. Okay. This is same building. Again, it's two buildings. This view, you're standing on Boulevard and South Avenue looking toward the train station. This is probably my favorite feature of this building for today. I don't know, it changes every day. But we're proposing to extend Boulevard all the way to the train station. Not only is this going to provide really great connectivity for all the residents in the neighborhood south of this to the train, we want to take this opportunity to make this a really activated and lively, privately owned public space. We think it can make a beautiful festival street on South Avenue. We don't think there's anything else like it in town over here, and we think it would be just beautiful and wonderful to experience. So moving into our residential projects. Again, I will just remind you the variety of buildings we have. On the Lord and Taylor site, we have two buildings flanking the existing building, 55 plus. Then we have the townhouses across the street, also 55 plus. And then we have the multifamily at Clark and North and the multifamily at Central and North. This slide is a collection of some of the imagery we've been working on to represent some of the important ideas as we think about these residential projects. So on the far left is the Lord and Taylor building, the Lord and Taylor residential building. You're standing on North Avenue again, looking sort of southeast. In the middle, you see the townhouses. You're standing on North Avenue looking northeast. So first and foremost, the first move we made with these buildings and how we're planning them is we're giving them very generous yards and sidewalks. We're actually aligning the face of these buildings with the neighborhood to the west. So as you're moving through the site from the west, the fabric of the neighborhood is going to carry right through our site. It's going to make the streets feel really beautiful, have a nice generous scale, they'll be very green. It'll make for a very pleasant experience as you walk through that space. And again, keep in mind right now, if you walk through that space, you're walking between a bunch of empty parking lots. So we think this is a vast improvement. You'll feel protected, it'll be well lit, it'll feel safe. We're really excited about it. To talk a little more about the image on the left, the Lord and Taylor residential. This image is also starting to show how we're thinking about breaking down the mass of these buildings. So you can see we have volumes at about 3-4 levels. Our street wall, in all cases, all of our buildings, is in the range of the downtown of Westfield, 40 to 45 feet, maximum, sometimes lower. And then anything above that is pushed way back, so you don't feel it so much on the street, which is, unless you're in an airplane, how you always experience a building. Again, as Richard mentioned, the materials we're showing on these buildings are very preliminary. These are not final designs. These are notions of what they could be like, and they're our first kind of stab at how we can take the textures and colors that we see in town and apply them to our buildings and make them feel like they belong. So to really quickly go through the other two, the townhouses are in the center. These are 3-story townhouses. They're lifted a little bit off of grade, just so that the ground level has a little bit of privacy from the sidewalk. And then they have an accessible roof on each unit. On the right side is an illustration of what our building at North Avenue and Central could be like. This is what we call our loft residential building. There's a few really interesting things about this building. First of all, it's a pretty prominent site in town. North and Central is a pretty big intersection. Currently, it's a parking lot there. We think this is a great opportunity to bring some presence to that corner. Second, this building is sitting immediately in front of the parking garage. So it's screening it. So when you're passing by this corner or walking by this corner, you're not gonna look at the garage, you're gonna look at this beautiful residential building that's activated and beautiful. Again, I just wanna reiterate, these are preliminary renderings. We're very excited to get everyone's feedback on our design process so far, and we're really looking forward to really just getting this project started. With that, I'll hand it over to Justin to talk about a few other aspects of the project.
Mayor, council, in the town of Westfield, thank you for having us here tonight. We're extremely excited. I think you've heard from a lot of my colleagues just about the proposed development and what it means to us as well as what it can mean for the town of Westfield. So let's get started. Fortunately, it is a 30-minute meeting or a 30-minute presentation, so we're already over, so I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. Traffic and parking are quite a heavy bit of lift here. So in the coming months, we're going to have a lot more information on this and a lot more information to share with you at our preview center. So sustainability. Just to orient everyone with this photo here, on the top half of this slide is what's existing today on South Avenue. And if you would mind just pointing out the train station so everyone can get oriented. And on the bottom half is our proposed conceptual. There we go. This is good service. So a couple of things that just jump off is the amount of greenery, right? I mean, we're looking at an existing parking lot that just screams it needs help. And in the bottom photo here, you can see that in our proposed development, there will be over 250 new trees planted in downtown. So what does that mean for downtown? It means a few things. Number one, reducing stormwater runoff, actually up to 30%. Number two, a new place of walkability. I think as the mayor had mentioned, as well as Caroline and Richard, we're really, really keen on focusing on developments from the street up. And number three is the safety and lighting, as well as the FF&E that would be proposed with public improvements, whether it's places to sit, places to lock your bike up, places to have a rideshare program pick you up, such as an Uber or Lyft, or even who knows what the future holds with other technology comes out these days. Moving into traffic. So we have a lot to cover here. Like I said before, we want you to come out to our preview center to educate you. Every single red dot you see on the screen here today is a traffic improvement or an intersection we have studied. We've engaged Kimley Horn, traffic department. We've been working with them for over 2 years now, as well as the town professionals, on looking at this on number one, how to maintain level of service, number two, how to fix existing issues. And just a couple of things I want to highlight here, Broaden's Prospect, we've budgeted for a new light fixture as well as sidewalk replacements there. North and Elm, as Caroline had mentioned, we're going to align the intersections and clean up that crazy crisscross we have going on right now. And last but not least, we've spoken a lot about parking. Not on the spotlight here is our private development for the South Zone office. The parking for this development is private, will park itself. We actually have 2 levels of podium parking that's lined with the street retail, as well as 2 levels of below grade parking. The 2 buildings that are on the north and south side here, you'll actually be replacing the existing surface lots with this, and these will be for the downtown patrons and public use. One item to note here is that on nights and weekends, our private development on South Avenue will actually be open to the public, free of charge for parking for any extra activities or the nightly visitors. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Richard Heaps to talk about something that could be the first in its kind in New Jersey, which is the Mobility Hub. Here we go.
Who here, I put this out to everybody, who here knows what a mobility hub is? well, you're par with everybody else in the country. It's an interesting idea. We have an amazing opportunity in Westfield because of what time it is relative to your development to put forth a vision for traffic, for walking, crawling, riding your bike, a cab, an Uber, whatever, and consolidate it. Well, the infrastructure is not moving, as far as I know. The train stations are not moving. The roads are not moving. We'd like them to be more efficient, reduce the number of parking spaces we need, and we would like to be able to say that anyone in the town of Westfield can get to the train and get anywhere in a variety of inexpensive and efficient ways. So I've got some images on the right there. If you look here, these are the kinds of things. Connecting the bikeways. That's in your bike plan, but it's not connected yet. We have the ability to come down Boulevard and other streets and connect to the train. We're looking to reinforce paths that now go from the train to Memorial Circle, but don't really hook up. We're going to hook up all of downtown Westfield and all of Westfield in as many traffic ways as possible. Some of them are free, which just means pave the damn stuff together so when you're riding a bike, you can ride your bike from north through the project to south. So some of them are just smart ideas like that. If you combine them all together, including some of the space in our garage for bike storage, bus shelters, anything you can think of that helps me get mobile to get where I'm going, preferably downtown and to the train, we're going to propose as part of this plan. So it's not a thing that's over there on the site. It's all of the site between north and south, Memorial and Central, that will be consolidated into something that can be there day one, that can grow over time, that can be added to, and we don't have a better name than Mobility Hub. So if you think of one, that's fine. But it's how do you get where you're going, whether you can drive or not, whether you're a kid, a teenager, an elderly person. And I think it's the first of its kind in New Jersey. There's a few little pieces of this everywhere. We're going to do it systematically for the whole project. And I think it's probably the most important thing. We've talked a lot about connectivity. You need to be able to just get where you're going, no matter your age, no matter what, whether you call an Uber and say, you got to get me down there, or whatever. We have to explore how to partner on these things. You'll see in the upper left-hand part of the slide there, a little sketch of how we want to convert the ends of the tunnel into something that's got a little more style to it, a little more brand to it, and make that connection. I think there's probably symbolically no more important part of this project than getting that tunnel up to speed so that's a natural part of going to the train and or going across to both sides. And we're really committed to that. I don't think it's that hard, but we need to put some money there and some thinking there. And I think, quite honestly, that's about as much as we can tell you. And still leave here tonight. So I'm going to ask Carolina just to come up and speak briefly about the economics of this project so that we can kind of finish this up. I hope it's at least enough for you to say, wow, that's a lot of ideas. That's a lot of stuff. I will say there's nothing here we haven't done before. So I'll leave it with you, Carolina, and then we can take your questions.
So I think the mayor said in the beginning that this is really a very significant effort from all of our parts in order to materialize and be able to achieve and receive all of the proceeds that the pilot program would generate with this development. For those who are not familiar with the concept, a pilot stands for a payment in lieu of taxes. And what basically that means is that towns have, such as Westfield, have at their disposal the ability to negotiate with property owners that are willing to invest beyond something that would be very economical, if you will, in terms of a property ownership, into creating a program that allows that property owner to pay, to make payments into this pilot program in lieu of taxes. And the graph that you see here on the right side of this slide, the blue bars represent the projected pilot that the mayor mentioned of over $200 million in proceeds over the life of the pilot, which today stands at 30 years. And the gray bars that you see below represents the share of property taxes we would pay under a regular tax environment. And as you can see, the proceeds from this program will generate a tremendous amount of revenue for the town to be able to invest in its infrastructure and some of the public improvements that we've mentioned today here. So with total pilot proceeds of $50 million, that includes the new construction of the public garages. It includes all of the streetscape improvements and retrofits associated with your public spaces. It includes the mobility hub. It includes the bearing of the utilities on South Avenue. It includes the connectivity and the bike paths that are already in your plans, but that we need to connect it together. It includes all of the traffic mitigation, some of which Justin highlighted for you here today. So we, as I said in the beginning, it's really truly a privilege to be here and be a property owner and be able to envision this level of very robust improvements that hopefully will generate a tremendous amount of resiliency and set Westfield for multiple decades to come. So with that, our last but not least, we have Trinisa coming through.
I think we owe you another fuzzy thing. Hi, everyone, and hello, Council. Thank you so much for having us here tonight, and thank you all for your patience as we've tried to take you through what is a very comprehensive plan in a short amount of time, but I think it's appropriate that I'm here to say it's not over. We have more. There are more opportunities for you to speak with us. You've heard my colleagues mention the Preview Center many times, and what we're very proud of as StreetWorks Developer is that we're the listening developer. During the pandemic, we did over 20 different virtual meetings with the Green team, the Rec team, Rabbi Kraloff, everyone. We were able to meet with so many people in the town during a time that was very uncertain. But in that meeting, we were all thinking about the future, and the future is what's right for Westfield. So we are very proud as a developer to be able to say that we want to hear from you. This is a proposal, and you have an opportunity to talk to us. You can see that we not only had the listening tour, where we met with various groups within the community, but we were also a part of the community. Yes, we're landowners, and we're very proud of that, but we're also a part of Westfield. I even ran a race. I've never done it. I did that because I need to lose weight. But it's also something that felt very good to be a part of the Westfield community. We've golfed with you. We've hosted many other events, from Sweet Sounds to looking crazy at Abbott's Fest, at Adams Fest. So we are very much true to our word in saying we're very much a part of the community, and we continue to do that. So let's talk about the One Westfield Place Preview Center. This is something unique for StreetWorks Development in that we really took the time to find a location, 76 Elm Street. It's right in the heart of town where you have access to us as the developer to ask us questions. It is something that we have tailored from found objects throughout your town to local artists that we're very proud to showcase to a comprehensive model that you'll be able to stand over and have someone talk you through what we're proposing. So we want to invite you to go to the old Chico's, if you remember that one. It's now One Westfield Place, and it will be opening as soon as early October. If you can't make it there, or if you still want more information, we want to invite you to go to onewestfieldplace.com. There you will find a landing page where you will have an opportunity to make an appointment to come and see us. There's some time slots that we provide, and then someone will follow up with you and narrow down the appropriate time for you or your group to come in so that we can once again take you through every element. You're interested in traffic? We can talk to you about it. You're interested in impacts on school? We can talk to you about it. You're interested in sort of the aesthetic of all of these different buildings that we've proposed. There's someone there that will be keeping office hours that you can talk to. And then you can also sign up to just get spammed by all the good news that we would send to you about what's happening with this development. So we encourage you. The other little feature that you'll find if you go on One Westfield Place tonight is that there's actually a video of people that you know in your town that are asking the same questions that many of you will likely have as you're going through this process. And so you'll see some familiar faces, and that's a nice feature that we're able to use your local producer actually to make a video where your local neighbors are asking similar questions about the development. So with that, I'll say it's only the beginning. We said it a lot. We've been here for almost 4 years talking to you. We've almost been here for too long, and so we're going to stop talking and we're going to turn it over to the council so that they can ask us some questions. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and as I said, this is for the council to ask questions, and as you've heard, tonight will be plenty of opportunity for the public to ask questions in future meetings at the Freedom Center, but so I will open it up to everyone here on the council.
Since I was the other one to go no and developing municipal lots, I guess I'll take the first question.
Excuse me, Councilman, the group over here, you just said I didn't really have to hear you.
Yeah, speaking to your microphone.
Since I was the other one on the council to vote no on developing the municipal parking lots, I said I'll ask the first question. I think
Yeah, sure.
Richard, thank you for your presentation. I think the concern that I've heard from most people is, I think the renderings look excellent. I think the concern is transforming the suburban type atmosphere more into Hoboken, and the thing I hear most from people is that we move to Westfield to be part of the suburban town. I read today actually that there's 20% commercial space available in New Jersey, in central New Jersey, and I'm sure that'll transform over the years. I understand this is type A space, so maybe it is more in demand, but there is a large opportunity in New Jersey for commercial spaces. There's currently 20% vacancy. The one thing I need clarity on is on the south side train station. Doug and I met earlier this week, and there is potential for apartments on the south side that is not in this condition. It has to do with the easement of New Jersey Transit, so that is a possibility. There would be apartments included, so you should put that in the presentation. Be upfront, transparent with everyone here. That's another point.
Let me be really upfront. This is our proposal. And that office building on that property is our proposal. This is not anybody else's or whatever else we believe in this. Underwritten, we can underwrite it.
Nobody's saying it's not your proposal. We know it's your proposal. I'm talking about, just the amount of space available. But the thing I didn't hear about, the one thing we do need is, commuter parking department seemed like very light in this presentation. The mobility hub sounds great, but it sounds like trying to transform more people to ride the bike during the pandemic. There are a lot of people riding bicycles. Honestly, people got away from that. So I'll ask Jim. Jim, how many current spaces are there in the south side train lot here?
Very interesting question. There's, in southbound train station lot, there's 400 and some odd spaces, 460 in there in that range.
I didn't hear any proposal, how many commuter spaces are you proposing in this presentation?
We're proposing over, sorry. You guys are too close. We're proposing over 600. In the two proposed garages, over 600 plus, including some surface spots open to the public. What's important, we've done studies where you can go down further or up another lever to create one-for-one exchange of parking. We could replace the parking that's there today. We do not propose that. We think it's too much. We think we need, as a community, to shift some of those modes of transportation from pure vehicle to other options, but it's there. But we're proposing slightly less than what exists today in those two garages, but it was maybe less.
I mean, that's obviously with something that Westfield residents want more commuter parking.
I'm sorry.
Westfield residents want more commuter parking, not less commuter parking.
Understood, and that's part of the discussion we'll have. We're proposing specifically 633 to replace 85% of what's there today, but that's part of the discussion.
So if you just hit on the easement of New Jersey.
Sure. Yeah, there is an easement today on the south parking lot that restricts private development to the area where our office building. The other areas around there are required to be public development, parking, open space, etc. A lot of that we believe needs to exist. That's why we're proposing it. We certainly, we've already talked to New Jersey Transit. I know the town has talked to New Jersey Transit. If there are ways that that easement can be modified in a sensible way that makes sense for private development along with public development to occur, that's something we would explore. But right now, with the easement that exists, the proposal we think makes the most effective use of that site by keeping our private development where it's allowed and the public development that I think we all feel is needed in the area where public development is allowed.
And I'll just say, as far as pilot programs, I get very nervous when I hear the term pilot. You see Jersey City, who pilot programs were designed for, recently passed ordinance preventing pilot programs, which they were designed for at least 20 years ago. It stands for payment in lieu of taxes, and they do cause havoc on the school system. So a lot of people are in Westfield for school system, and unfortunately, pilot programs do prevent money going to the schools. I see Ms. Kelvin shaking her head. It's true, because if the school's going to get their money either way, if the developments don't make their revenue numbers, then it's up to the taxpayers to eat up the difference of the school budget. And it doesn't. I think you can agree with that as far as the pilot, the way you go ahead.
Not completely. The pilot is us agreeing to pay a payment in lieu of taxes, which actually takes, taxes are typically 17 or 18% of taxes go to the town, a certain amount to the school board. Here in a pilot program, this isn't just for Westfield, but it's for the state, 95% of that goes to the town. Proposing that a portion of that go for the public improvements that we've talked about tonight. There are potentially other proceeds that the town can use, but we have specifically, the master plan specifically spoke to the need for alternative forms of housing, particularly for people selling their home and wanting to age in place. I'm 57, it's for me, right? If I wanted to stay in Westfield. So by restricting that, we think we are doing a lot to minimize the impact on the schools by not creating housing that will bring a lot of new school children
to the community. That's already happening through the single family housing stock here, which is great.
Can you guys talk about, I think Westfield's keeping some pretty nice company that, I believe you're working with 4 communities. I think the residents should hear, that Westfield is pretty distinct vis-a-vis the other 3 communities that you've chosen to partner with. I'd like the public to hear about that.
The other projects we're working on?
Yeah, and why you guys chose Westfield.
It's, for me, and I'll turn it over, it's a great town. We've been here a long time, so just in our DNA, Lord Taylor is here, we're here, it makes sense. And the town was just in a very proactive stage. As the mayor said, they reached out to us early on to say the landscape's changing, what's going to happen to your property. And that sort of active dialogue is what we live for in our community so that we can create a development that works. If we don't have a partner, it's hard to create something special.
Well, let me just say, the four other places that are hot in our portfolio is Beverly Hills, along Wilshire Boulevard at Rodeo Drive, for a parcel of 4 blocks. We have a major parcel in downtown Vancouver for a very large project at Main, so to speak, and we have an equivalent large project in Montreal. We have many other properties. Doug, myself, Ken, this team are really focused on those 4 properties. Quite honestly, for me, Vancouver's great, whatever, blah, blah, blah. What? You can quote me on that. Most interested in Westfield is the kind of work I've done for this length of time. I understand it and I like it, and you're worth it. So that's my interest. And we'll work on everything else, blah, blah, blah. But I think the critical issue is that timing is everything in these things. You get a time when things are lined up, and I think, with all due respect to you, have you visited the office space in New Jersey? Blah, blah, blah. It's not competitive. You're not competitive as a state in office space. So we look for ways to push forward and take the best benefits. There will be a rush towards office space in New Jersey as soon as many of these companies wake it up and say, I can't attract any young people here. So it's all in the context of the situation. I don't think the situation for Westfield is 5 years ago. It's into the future. How are you moving it forward? That's our view. Right now, Westfield's here in office space. You don't have any.
I appreciate that, but you have to realize this is a suburban town. You mentioned cities. You're not talking about a town of 30,000 people.
Sure we are. How many people do you think live in Beverly Hills? 34,000?
It's a small town. If I can, I think I'll tie your concern about scale and density and appropriateness for a town, a suburban town like Westfield. I think your question, Councilman Contract, in terms of the breadth of experience and our sensitivity towards unique aspects of Westfield. We are a collective of experts ranging from architects through urban planners, urban designers, economists, community outreach, and street developers. And through that collective of our backgrounds and experience, we have experience in working in all sorts of communities, small, medium, large. And we feel that the level of scale and appropriateness in terms of density, our housing, to give you an idea, collectively our residential buildings represent less than 25 units per acre, which is fairly on the lower end of density. If you will see new proposals coming in adjacent towns, etc. So we have taken great care to have that level of appropriateness, because quite frankly, if we don't get that right, we don't think that, generally, you know, if we, just as an example, if we were to do a 20-story building, by no means we're proposing that, I don't think that building would generate more value than the much lower structure that we're proposing. So,
And just to conclude, we have properties across North America, we can all across North America. Probably the single common denominator is we look to focus our efforts where the community is really first class, high quality. And you know, there's no question in our mind that Westfield is that. What exists here today and the AAA rating of the town, et cetera, this is a place we
Can I interrupt for a minute? I don't want to block the two council members here. Can I move this TV for a minute with our fire chief? So everyone's gonna watch us do this. We break it. I'm sorry. Don't break it. Unplug the cord back. Hold on.
Wait a second.
That's a big TV, by the way.
There she is.
Okay. Thank you.
You were trying to see me.
It's too big.
Yeah.
We thought it was gonna be smaller, okay. Yeah, don't put it on the screen, just.
Oh, just see.
Watch the
All right. There we go. All right.
Richard, we have heard, Tom, we've heard a lot about connectivity, walkability, and even Justin mentioned a bit about the improvement to East Broad and Prospect of the traffic light. What other pedestrian infrastructure improvements can we expect from this project? And I have a few other questions to follow up.
I'm so sorry. Okay, look at that. So, where does it start? It starts with your terrain, and it starts with your sidewalk system. Needs some help. Generally speaking, it's walkable, but not that walkable. Your sidewalks are very narrow. It's hard to walk 2 people by 2 people. Hard to have cafes, etc. So it starts with the sidewalk system, etc. In our proposal, we have a series of agendas related to your sidewalks. It includes all new street trees, which is expensive. Quite honestly, so there's some shade, some cover for things. There are some ways to do sidewalk cafes and whatever that use some of your curb parking. I'm not proposing to do that, but we have put the money in to redo the sidewalks in the downtown, generally speaking, and get them up to speed. Then there's, you have, see, this is so frustrating, obviously. You have the plans for it. You have your bike and walk and whatever plans that were good and well considered, except they don't hook up. I can ride down Boulevard or Summit, and I get to downtown and then they don't hook up. So we're really looking, going back to that idea of connectivity, so that all of these Westfield-wide plans that we have going on can be done. And we have, in our proposal, we have hooked all those things up. We've hooked the bike paths up without taking a lane of traffic off of south and north, which has its own problems, so we're not doing that. We're using the lanes that are adjacent to the tracks. So it's a pretty wide systematic approach using your documents, be able to walk presentation, looking at it from a book. And we're anxious to keep working on it. It's not a lot of money. It's just finding the rights of way and saying, oh geez, we can't take a lane of traffic off of them. So what else can we do? That's how we're looking at it. I don't know if that's a good answer. But looking at the whole system down to the track and how we get people back and forth from there safely and inexpensively in some cases.
Doug, just, I was a little confused. In November of 2020, the mayor, this council, voted that Westfield didn't blighted and needed redevelopment. And he just gave us 50 amazing ways why Westfield's such a great town, like moderating. So why should the residents of this town give the developers a pilot program?
Actually, I'm sorry, I just want to clarify one of your, correct you on your premise. These blighted is a term from the 90s, and it's not, let me finish. No, let me finish. Areas need redevelopment. It used to be, back in the 90s, that they were blighted. What the state of New Jersey did, they added to the definition opportunities for economic development. So you don't have to be blighted in the traditional sense to be designated either an area of rehabilitation or redevelopment. It's a very popular political thing to say, as it often is, but it's not true. And so the idea is it was designated to help drive and inspire economic development on downtown, but it's not blighted. So with that being said, now you can answer your question.
Yeah, that gets to the core of the issue. There's lots of wonderful things about Westfield, but the two surface parking lots, you saw a picture of them earlier, you know it, at the train station are not something that fits that category. Those surface lots are in need of redevelopment. And we want a redevelopment not just with big private development, but a real combination of private development and public improvements, public realm, and that's what the pilot facilitates.
I have two questions. First question is, I didn't see any power lines on the street. Is that just the design, or power lines not going to be around?
That's the design, is to vary wherever possible. That when the proposal includes varying the public utility lines on the south side of South Avenue along that frontage.
And so one more quick question. Can you talk a little bit about how you're going to take the public input from the center and use that to affect the final design aesthetic? Because you guys mentioned that these are just sort of ideas. How are you going to take the public input and use that into the final
A variety of ways, technology, soliciting email response, but primarily from meeting with people, meeting in the preview center with the model, with the plans, and going through them in detail and taking that input. And just in terms of a timeline, again, this is a conceptual timeline, everything goes well, etc. But if we spent the balance of this year in a dialogue with the community that informed these plans, where we then brought them back early next year for approval as the conceptual master site plan as part of the redevelopment agreement, then we still need to come back after that with specific proposals that include building materials and stuff, the way all developments do, then come back for site plan approval. We're not avoiding site plan approval. This is all happening before site plan approval. So we get through this process with the community. It informs the overall plans, the uses, the bulks, the heights, etc. And then we still have to come back with very specific plans that include what color is the siding, right? And that happens next year.
Does there anything, conversations with utility companies? Being in the utility industry, I know how expensive it is. Good question, what's your money bills with power, telecommunications, water, and is there any conversations that started, or is this just
No, absolutely started. One, we've been a property owner here, so we have those relationships, and we're adjacent to the railroad, so we have those relationships already. And over the past year, we've already begun those meetings because we know it's not only an issue we have to deal with, but it's feel very comfortable with the capacities here, or that we propose sensible solutions to increase the capacity as necessary.
Oh, thanks everybody.
Sorry, she had her hand up.
I just want to talk a little bit about the office space and something I learned in my years serving on the downtown Westfield Corporation. And I'm not sure that the public is aware, as I was not aware. But over the last many years, we've lost 700 in downtown, several hundred downtown employees. Most recently, we had an office building on the south side that was vacated. Those tenants did not want to leave the town of Westfield, but they did not have the quality office building they needed to stay. I've also been witness to multiple very high-end companies buzzing around, trying to come here, and we don't have what they need. When those downtown offices left, those employees left, we lost a really big opportunity for foot traffic. So for me, I'm very interested in the fact that we're proposing Southside office building as opposed to residential, because I have spoken to so many of our restaurant owners who said that people don't realize that they can't really survive on a dinner time clientele. We really need that much time business. I would like to know something of this scale. Would you build and wait for people to come? I would imagine, based on my experience, that you have very prestigious companies coming to you and would want to build to suit. So could you speak a little bit to that process?
Yeah, we do have relationships nationally. We just signed a lease with Morgan Stanley, New York City, and others, hospitals and medical facilities, etc. So we definitely have those relationships, and the relationships with the people that have those relationships. We have, to answer your specific question, we have one advantage in the Lord Taylor building is that it exists today. So yes, we can do things there without having to spec office building, because the building it turns out our buildings are very well suited to what the employers of tomorrow are looking for. 17-foot ceilings, right? Not a huge tower. They want their employees to be able to come and feel comfortable. They want amenities. They want to be in a downtown. They want to be near a train station. All of that exists in our Lord Taylor building. I'll be happy if you come down to the preview center. I'll show you what we're doing in Garden City for Morgan Stanley on the second floor and a hospital on the first floor. So that's one. The Mass Timber building, we believe, is a game changer for New Jersey, but we will likely require some releasing and an anchor tenant going forward. We're committed to it, we believe very strongly in it, but we don't want to create another office, and have it sit vacant. So this is what we do. This is what office developers do. We feel very confident. Part of the reason to break the building up into two is scale. Part of the reason is we can lease half of the first building and move that building forward entirely. And that activity, as you see about the M Station, etc., really drives tenant.
My last question, again, being a Southside council person, you see the renderings and it looks really beautiful, and I really encourage people when they're standing on the south side to look at the blank parking lots right now with critical eyes to what's actually there. But can we look forward to you giving some love to this side of the street that exists already, so that it's not diminished and disappears in the grandeur of what you put up?
You're talking about the south side of South?
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to start with our proposal to bury the utilities, which will make a dramatic.
On both sides.
If you go stand there and look at those power lines, that is
I do.
really. Sure, we haven't proposed anything specific like a facade plan, which we've done in other areas, but we can look at those sorts of things. Sidewalks are a good place to start.
Councilor Parley.
All right, thanks very much for your presentation this evening, I really appreciate it. One of the things that's come up tonight is the potential impact that pilot revenue can have with respect to school districts. But the way I counted out, and despite the size of your proposed development, there's only, am I right, Carolina or Justin, that there's only 64 units that can really potentially house families, and the bulk of it is 55 plus? And so the idea, I think, is the 55 What is it, why is it different, and why do you want to build it here?
So, a mass timber building is a building that has a cross-laminated type of timber. And the production of that timber, so it's not your typical, if we're doing our single-family homes, it's not your typical stud wall. It's a structure that is completely 100% made out of this cross-laminated timber that has the structural integrity to support structural spans and heights, building heights, etc. To produce that type of structure is very low energy intensive in comparison to concrete, which most commercial buildings are made out of, or steel. And in addition to that, to erect that structure is faster, so it requires much less labor. In addition to that, it is just truly warm and beautiful. Imagine, and you will see in our preview center, we have several photographs, existing photographs of mass timber buildings to give you a true visual of what those spaces inside look like. So highly sustainable materials, and of course, with our adaptive reuse of the zero building, there's no better way for us to save on the embodied energy of producing buildings, right? New buildings from ground up. So that's a great opportunity for us to.
Just thank you, perfect. Two things to add. Because of the lamination that Carolina spoke of, you don't need to cut down large trees, old growth trees to make these things. So we use new growth trees and laminate together to make these structures, which is further sustainable.
So then, Doug, from the exterior pictures, it looked like they had different outside skins, I guess you call it, facing. But so the insides of the building, you actually see the wood, the mass timber, the laminated wood.
That's correct. It replaces the steel and the concrete portions of the building, so your facades can still be what they can be and a variety. But yes, the interior, you try to be as much exposed as possible to bring out the quality of the wood.
Since you're talking about a sustainable form of development, can you talk a little bit more about other sustainability features that you're going to work into your buildings?
Yes, so starting from the most intensive level of environmental impact is energy. So our building envelopes will be highly tight, so we can conserve the heat that it emanates inside the building and recover that heat, so we can use it as energy. But also we can minimize the heat that comes from the outside through a very tight envelope and glazing that allows for that level of efficiency. Energy is one of the most intensive, environmentally unfriendly issues, so preserving energy is very important. The second item is on water conservation. Water is becoming a highly valuable resource. We have projects on the West Coast, that is a much worse problem on the west side, on the West Coast I should say. But nevertheless, we will be reusing gray water to irrigate the landscape and plants, and be very mindful about water usage throughout, low flush toilets, as well as sinks that are optimized, etc. Lastly, but not least, I can get more technical on this, but I will bury. But the use of materials, and where materials come from and how they are sourced. So from a carpet to a light fixture to a particular type of paint. The goal for us, the team has been, Anne and her team have been very focused on setting up equivalencies. I don't know if you've heard of LEED. LEED is a rating system for high-performing, environmentally friendly building. Our goal here is to have the equivalent of a LEED Silver to a LEED Gold standard. And again, in order for us to attract
I'm just marking the time, so that I
Can I ask a question too?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to talk about the residents on the north side, maybe a little development weary right now. So I just wanted to ask about the density, if you guys could remind us about the density that may be going in there, on the north side at the Lauren Taylor Building and
Sure.
the Clark Street.
I'll start on the east side and then turn it over to Carolina. Actually, the north side on the east, its most proximity to the downtown is where we have the least development, and that's by intention. There's already a lot going on there, and there is a whole lot more that we feel we should propose there. But I'll let Carolina speak specifically to what's proposed here on the west side of the north side.
Yeah, so, as I said, on average, the whole proposed development on the residential side is less than 25 units per acre. On the west side specifically, which is the Lord and Taylor site, if you recall, and maybe if we can go back to that image just to trigger everyone's so on the west side, we have 2 apartment buildings that totals 138 units for 55 plus. And if you imagine, before in the apex of the Lord and Taylor journey in history, you had a fully activated, not 24/7, but very close to that fully functional department store. So we're decreasing that area of the former department store and then providing 138 units on either side of the Lord and Taylor building. And then across the streets, it's just 16 units of townhomes. And then the building on North and Clark is 34 units of apartments, not for the 55 plus.
And my last question, I want to echo what Councilwoman Grippo says. I do have concern knowing, reading and researching over the next 5 years that people are going to work, back to work and taking the train and driving, even pre-COVID days, even though so many of us get to stay, work at home. So I am hoping and taking into account, as happy as I am here, thinking about the idea of mixed-use building and office workers, shopping downtown, eating lunch downtown. I really think that's a great idea. But I do have the concern at the Southside train station of commuter parking, the office workers, and I imagine their tenants or clients, and how that would all work. So
Parking is one of the key discussions to have this fall. We've done a lot of work and a lot of work with the town to get to this proposal. We believe strongly in not building more spaces than what's necessary. As soon as they become antiquated or unused, they're negative. They're negative for the private developer, but the public spaces underutilized are negative to the town. They still have to manage them, they have to pay for them, etc. So we really seek to right size that. Also by locating what will be a lot of daytime population in the office building downtown, they're going to help the businesses there, and they'll be commuting in. We will park them in our garage, not in the public garages, or they'll be coming by, hopefully by rail and other things. So we want to flip that narrative a bit. But again, that's why we propose 85% replacement of public parking on either side, because we think it's sufficient with where the world is going today.
Carolina, could you talk a little bit about the sequencing of how all this happens? Because it's a lot of construction, it touches a lot of different parts of the town, and I know people are going to be interested in understanding how that's going to impact their life, and how soon they're going to see some of the public improvements where that falls into the timeline.
Sure, I'll start and you can fill in. Basically, we would start on the west side with the Lord and Taylor building. It exists today. That is a great place to jump start again. There is the ability to build on those lots today. We understand that we'll move forward with some of the town green, the town square, particularly the town square on the north side, and the parking deck there, to do 2 things. One, to bring some of the public improvements
we want them as well. But two, because to buy the south lot of the town, we need to relocate the parking in the north garage that is yet to be built. So build that, once that's built, come back and close and acquire the south lot and then build the office there. That fits in with our schedule of pre-leasing for that office as well, so it all works well. It's not to build it all at once, but it's a rolling phase because we don't want to also stretch it out so long that it's disruptive for years and years. So it's really to roll from the west, the north, and right into the south.
Right, so for the purpose of time,
I have one question.
can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah, I just want to say that the question from the townhouses at those rentals or purchase?
They're planned to be rentals, built to the standard and purchase. So if for some reason that's where the market demand would be, but our plan is to rent them. We feel that's where the demand is in the 55-hour market going, that is underserved.
So,
one last question. At this point, in the other lots of design, water supply, some of the other municipal lots, are there any plans right now to develop those lots, or that's where we're at right now?
Not for us. No, sir.
I have one last question. Any chance we could bring the shoe department back?
Do our best.
Okay.
that, I actually have an important question in just a second, but I did want to make a few comments, then I'm going to ask that very popular question, I think. Just a couple thoughts for everybody to think about regarding commuter parking. Because, I work a lot with New Jersey Transit, take a look at kind of the commuter patterns. And what they say is commuting is going to come back. They went through the 30, it's going to be where it was, but it's only going to be coming back 3 days a week. And they pretty much agree, and I think you read all the studies, that 3 days a week seems to be the way it's going to be in the future. So it also has to shape how you think about commuter parking. Because parking is an asset, right? And it's expensive to build, and there's opportunity cost for not using it for something else. So it's one thing when people are commuting in 5 days a week, and we're providing that benefit 5 days a week. But now we're creating something that people are going to be using 3 days a week, that will take it 4 days a week. So I think as being fiduciary or taxpayers, we have to think about how much do we provide that provides the maximum benefit to the public. Because there's an opportunity cost of providing too much parking. So I think this is going to be an ongoing conversation, but I think we just have to think about it a little bit differently in light of the world that we're living and where we're going. The other comment I want to make about pilot, I think Councilman Parley brought up a good point about really little impact on schools in terms of students, but it's also really important to note that the current commuter parking lots in which some of this development is happening, currently there is no taxes being paid on that. So there's currently no tax revenue that's going to either the town or the schools for that matter. And now what's being proposed on it, office space that will not be delivering any children, and parking and public amenities. So if you think about it as it relates to what the impact on the schools, they're not losing money that none of us ever collected in the first place. And then from the pilot, they'll be sure to maintain what currently exists from the Ward of Taylor. So, and we're not really delivering any school children. And I do want to remind everybody, the 151 units that we have already been constructed and been built, there's only 9 children in them. Because that is not, those are people that are not seeking, children are not seeking to live in rental markets. They're not. They're young families, and we're finding big time over 55. And even though your building, you said, Carolina, it's not intended to be over 55, ask the guy on 501 South Avenue who told me he didn't realize he was building an over 55 apartment building, which he has. So I think you're spot on in terms of identifying market and need. And I think we have a very collaborative relationship with the school district, and absolutely will help them continue to work with them on shared services in that regard. The thing I did want to make, and this is a really important question. I know you have a liquor list. What are you going to do with it? Where and how?
We absolutely, in the curated retail that's along Ward of Taylor, we believe that's the best location to use that liquor license that we bought 3 or 4 years ago, sort of in patient anticipation of using it. So we would use that to activate and provide an amenity of F&B restaurant over there for that moves forward to plan what has been talked about for, I think, long before this administration, either upgrading the Central Avenue Firehouse and creating a new annex or some other facilities to allow the current the historic firehouse for the fire department to move out of that, and those facilities, because of the historic nature of the building, cannot accommodate co-ed locker rooms and other things. And that would be backfilled with restaurant and office upstairs to activate that. We believe fully, since they created this company, that public spaces need boundaries with activity to make them come alive. And that's what that firehouse will do.
And we can, and modeled after what we're doing with the train station. We can put a liquor license in there as well. So you could have a green that's surrounded by activated bars and restaurants and public space.
Correct. Take the successful program you've already marked out and bring it around to the site.
All right, so.
Are you saying the StreetWorks is paying for the firehouse or no?
That's our professional.
So they use stuff about the expansion of the firehouse.
The project produces significant revenues in town with a title.
So, okay, so obviously lots of questions. I'm sure you all have lots of questions. So you will hopefully go to westfieldplace.com, right? And take a look, and the preview center opens, and I think with that, we're going to move on to the rest of the agenda. Thank you so much for StreetWorks Development. Okay, we're going to get started on this time. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the town council conference and regular meetings of September 6, 2022? Moved by Councilor Yaki, second. Second by Councilor Grippo. Any discussion?
I just have to say.
Contract. Thank you. Opposed? This motion is carried. Now it's time for open discussion by citizens. Anyone may come on the microphone and speak out on your jurisdiction. Please state your name, address, for record, and leave with your comments for 5 minutes.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Tony Laporta, 409 North Chestnut Street, Westfield, New Jersey. And as you know, a former council. A lot to think about with what we heard today. There's a lot of information. We talk about Lord and Taylor. I go back a long time to Lord and Taylor. I remember I was about 8 years old and got my first union suit out of Lord and Taylor when we lived in Elizabeth. So long relationship with Lord and Taylor. So I divided in my mind between 2 projects. You got the Lord and Taylor site, and you got the South Side train station site. I don't like either project, but I'm going to be open-minded, and I'm going to read about it, talk to people. For my purposes, my perfect world for the Lord and Taylor site, bad project. You know what we need in Westfield? We need a fine arts center. Look at Morristown. Look at Red Bank. We need a fine arts center. We need a luxury hotel. You would draw so many people into that fine arts center. We'd have first-class entertainment. And this is just on the weekends. Look at Morristown and Red Bank. Every day they have it. World-class entertainment. Why do you want an up-class hotel? Well, we need that in Westfield. Weddings, anniversary parties, all kinds of parties that people would have. They don't have to go out of town. That's something we don't have in Westfield. And you wouldn't be adding citizens into that spot that are going to need, you're going to need more fire, more police, works. Besides salaries, you got pensions, you got health care. So in my perfect world, that Lord and Taylor site would be what I just discussed. Regarding the South Side train station, don't like that. You're gonna have less parking. If I heard it right, you're gonna have 300 parking spots on the north side, and that's gonna be for shoppers primarily, and 300 on the south side. Are my numbers wrong? Is that what I heard? Okay, I guess that's what I heard. So you're gonna have less. I mean, if I'm wrong, please tell me now. So silence means I'm right. Okay, fine. You're giving up too many spaces. I worked in downtown New York for 37 years. 30 years living here in Westfield. One of the beautiful things about living in Westfield and commuting out of Westfield is it's so easy to park. You park, you walk briskly, you run for your train. Guess what? A parking deck will add 10 minutes at the minimum onto both sides of the commute. Going to work and coming home. That's 20 minutes out of a commuter's life. That's really bad. That's a bad idea. Also, people that are going to come off the train at night. 10:30, 11 o'clock, 11:30, midnight. Happens all the time. How are they going to feel about going into a parking deck? I don't think they're going to feel very safe about that. Open lot is much better. So, what I would recommend for the south side lot is what we had years ago, was a referendum. Bring it to the people, let the people decide. Not 9 people sitting up here, let the people decide. Now, we had a referendum on the south side for a parking deck. Tom, what year was that we had a referendum? I'm sorry. What year was it we had a referendum on parking deck?
I'm not sure. It's a non-binding referendum, I think in 2003.
2003?
I believe so.
Okay. We'll take the town attorney's word for that, 2003. I believe it was defeated 80% to 20%. Now, when I was a councilman, this is what I asked the town to do. Have a referendum. I was on the council in the early 90s. And I heard from all the members of council, we can't do that, it'll never work, that's not the way we govern. You look at the history of Westfield, the monies we spent on parking decks, I believe when I was on the council in the early 90s, it was up to $10 million, going back into the 50s. After I left the town council, we spent an additional $2 million. In that ballpark, 12 million.
You're almost out of time.
What's that?
You're almost out of time.
Okay. Well, it's just too much. Bring it to a referendum. Do the best you can. Get the information out there. Let the people decide. And I will write letters to the editor. I will talk to my friends. And there's more information needs to come out. Let the people decide. And this mobility hub, waste of time. No one's going to take a bicycle when it's raining, it's snowing, it's hot. Oh, come on. You need parking. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Council.
I'm sorry.
Mark, you cannot comment.
No comment.
I'm gonna let
Mark.
Councilman, I'm sorry.
More on this day,
Council.
we talk about parking forms,
Yeah,
can you show me where it's.
You're
out of line.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's in section 2-66 of our town code. The mayor is the presiding officer of the meeting, and she determines what's in order and out of order.
And you know our Councilman.
Yes.
You know how this works. It's public comment. You're out of line, and I'm sorry, your time is up, Councilman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman Uriba.
Anybody else?
Jim Boyce, 122 First Place. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's late meeting, so I'll get right to it. I just was hoping I could get an update on the status of efforts to resolve the traffic congestion issue at Ferris and Prospect. The traffic circulation issues at that area, at that intersection, are well known, and this council has previously committed to resolving that issue in advance of the impending redevelopment at that very intersection. And so just wondering if we could get a quick update as to where those negotiations stand. Thank you.
Mayor, council members, my name is Mike Domagala. I live at 961 Boulevard here in Westfield. One of my main concerns is Boulevard becoming a thoroughfare for the traffic. Already on Central, we can go ahead and see the traffic gets backed up, and they use Boulevard as the kind of way to circumvent any of the lights that are on Central. So having young children and other young children on our block, definitely concerned about that. Beyond that point, the height of the stores that are on South Ave that are being proposed, it looked like it was 4 stories high. I could be wrong, but even just driving through, say, the Garwood area and seeing some of the new buildings that are going up there, they're quite high. I'm not necessarily against any office space. I'm not necessarily against bringing more people to the community or having a vibrant community or other areas that we can go and use. I don't have a horse in the race, sorry, on the Lord and Taylor item, but I think that the size of those buildings should be brought down. That's just a consideration for myself, and I think other people on Boulevard would probably feel similarly. But thank you.
Matt Lipsky, 227 Prospect Street. First of all, I want to say that as someone who moved to Westfield specifically because it is walkable and who can't drive, I think you all know my story, I was pretty excited to see the degree to which the team put thought into the walkability of the town and the experience of having a walkable town. That is something that is very important to me. And I thought they did I thought their presentation was well thought out, it was compelling. And it's nice to see such a professional team put so much thought into what they're doing. That said, I think it's incumbent on this group to really pressure test that and do your due diligence. The town has experts, obviously Hudson Bay has experts, and there are also a number of experts who live in town who for the Prospect Ferris development, were very willing to offer their opinions. And I would really strongly encourage you to engage those people early so that you get a sort of an independent third-party view. I'd recommend considering the entire proposal in its entirety and in components, both in terms of what is there now, what they're proposing, and what a sort of a moderate halfway step could look like. And measure the benefits to the town and the impacts to the town of all 3 of those before approving anything. As you move forward, as we all know, there are a lot of procedural steps to this. There will be a lot of votes. I would strongly encourage you all not to use those votes to drive good information gathering and to really interrogate them. Don't pass things just so that you can approach it at the next step. Be really, really thoughtful. Your vote is valuable. And before you know it, you can be sort of too far down the road. Councilwoman Habgood asked the question, and I think it was a good question, about how they're thinking about phasing and iterative processes of the development. I think I would press them a little bit more about how we make sure that the parts that are important to the town get done, right? Funding environments change. They may do the first part and decide that it's not a good fit. You want to make sure that you leave enough room for them to be iterative as they work, so that if things are not working, we can pivot and adjust, but also that the things that they promise to the town actually do come through at the end. That's all for me. Thank you.
Anthony Scagnino on 543 Washington Street. Madam Mayor, I'd like to point out some comments you have made in the past that misrepresent known facts about properly engineered real grass fields. You always make these remarks at the end of the meetings, and there is no follow-up discourse on the validity of your comments. And I just witnessed the clamping down on free speech. I mean, it's ridiculous. So comment number one that you made a long time ago, you said real grass doesn't work. You cited that during COVID, the town aerated and seeded Tamaqua Park fields. The grass had time to grow and mature during the COVID time. As soon as they resumed post-COVID, the fields were ruined again. You said that at one of our meetings. You comparing the town's ineffective actions of aerating and seeding to the capability of re-engineered real grass fields with proper drainage, submaterials, grass species selection for sports fields, and professional maintenance is not fair and truthful. You are either woefully misinformed on this subject, or you are intentionally misrepresenting the comparison to push your my way or the highway agenda. You refuse to do the proper trade studies on this because you are afraid the outcome won't match your agenda. And don't even imply that the 14K CME study is the proper study. It does not address all fields in this town. It is blatantly flawed. Another comment you made, real grass will need poisonous compounds for fertilizer and weed and bug control. This is a total misrepresentation of known facts. This has been proven to be inaccurate by data presented to you and the council, as well as the Board of Ed. Yet you all ignore this data to maintain the present agenda. Professional field managers know how to maintain the fields with organic compounds that are safe for animals, people, and the environment. And there is no carpet to throw out every 8 years. Again, uninformed or just ignoring the information to push through an agenda. Comment number 3. Your latest misrepresentation from 2 weeks ago is that you have to constantly water the real grass, and it's a waste of the water resources. Seriously? Your environmentally green trade-off is to put a plastic, carcinogen-filled plastic carpet over acres of natural grass to save water. An unrecyclable carpet, no less. Did you know that increasing organic material in the soil by 1% helps the soil hold 20,000 gallons more water per acre? Google Dr. Michelle Wander, Professor of Natural Resources and Environmental Sciences at the University of Illinois. It is explained very clearly there. You consistently make these erroneous comments at the end of the meetings to try to defend your indefensible plan for Edison Field and the rest of our town fields. You are proven wrong time and time again. You ignore the intelligent people that come before you, PhDs, scientists, engineers, and financial analysts. You refuse to do the necessary trade studies using unbiased sources. You wasted $14K on a study by a biased actor to prove the validity of your project. It does not address the capacity and financial savings that can be obtained if all fields are re-engineered with real grass. So, in conclusion, you were wrong comparing the ineffective attempt at aerating and seeding to the benefits of re-engineering the real grass fields. You were wrong that poisonous chemicals are needed to maintain real grass. You were wrong about the amount of water needed to maintain real grass fields. You continue to ignore the financial savings of real grass over fake turf. You continue to ignore the environmental and safety concerns of fake turf. You continue to ignore the quality of life issues that stadium lights would cause in residential neighborhoods. And you continue to ignore the environmental inequality issues. Edison kids matter too. And if Roosevelt kids can wander around natural paths through their little wooded park, why can't Edison kids have the same natural environment? So this entire project goes against a green Westfield agenda, and it will ruin residential neighborhoods. You will be responsible for this, and anyone who votes yes will be responsible for this. So those things that I mentioned that you were wrong about, you're also wrong about clamping down free speech. And there should be conversation between the council, the mayor, and the people who come up here to talk. It's the right way to do it, and it should be done in public. I shouldn't have to come and see you in private. And that's all I have to say.
Good evening, Frank Fusaro, 422 Stanley Avenue here in Westfield. I just witnessed the presentation. I just want to make a couple of quick comments. take up too much of your time. I didn't hear much regarding the new or proposed firehouse. We heard that the existing firehouse is going to be demolished, repurposed, etc. However, we didn't hear anything about where the new firehouse is going, who's paying for it, etc. As you may or may not know, throughout the state of New Jersey, many developers come before municipalities with plans and presentations for large developments similar to what is being proposed here this evening. And in the negotiations with these municipalities, the developers usually offer something to the town, a community center, a firehouse, a police station, etc., public safety building. So I just want to bring that to your attention, and perhaps you can elaborate on where the new firehouse is going to go, what it entails, etc. Thank you for your time.
Okay, seeing no other comments, sorry, can you hear me? Seeing no further comments, I close this portion of the meeting. Just the only thing I'm going to say for those of you that came up and gave comments about the project.
Too close
yeah.
to my.
Yes, I'll try that. I would just say that's the whole purpose of the review center. And you know, they'll be there to talk about heights and densities and parking and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to encourage you to go there and engage with experts who will be at the review center that can address all your concerns, get your input. And that's exactly what they're doing, is trying to get a feel for the neighbors and what people are saying and so forth. So that's going to be, I think, open first week of October, and I would encourage you to do that. The only thing I wanted to correct, Mr. Laporta, that you mentioned about parking. You said that the north side parking solution is for shoppers. The reality is actually 50% of our parking permits are for people on the north side. So actually, people from the north side now have to traverse to the south side to park to go to the office, and could actually mitigate the traffic circulation at high peak time. So I think our intention is to work for the commuters. And I would also encourage you to go to the Meeting Center and share with them the same feedback that you just gave us tonight about what you wanted. Former council employees, I'm not sure, I don't know what the latest is on the traffic fares, the prospect study, but we can certainly, I think Councilman Doherty as the chairman can get back to you. And the other thing I wanted to comment, someone mentioned about relying on their experts. I think it's really important to note we've had our own team of experts, as I mentioned earlier in my remarks. We have our own parking consultant, traffic consultant, and they have worked independently for the town, and they have been paid out of escrow for the developer. So they have their own experts, which they reference in the presentation, but we have ours working on this project too. So we feel very good that there are people that have been having these conversations that have been advocating for the best interests of Westfield. But there'll be a lot of, again, further conversation about that. Mr. Scaglio, you dismissed the CME report, but it's supposed to come in the next week. And I think all of us agree that that would be a good barometer of an objective assessment of the path forward for Edison. So we all await that report and see what it says. And this report, regarding the firehouse, Mr. Councilman Rippo could probably attest. There was a consultant looking at the building of the firehouse long before my administration because of the outdated nature of this historic home, historic firehouse. You can't put in, you have customized apparatus to be able to fit into it. You can't throw it, locker rooms, etc. So I think everybody would acknowledge that a new firehouse was long overdue. The places I know that they're looking are upgrading the current firehouse on Central and Sycamore to accommodate the more Bay firehouse, and then another location potentially on the north side. There are a ton, I think you heard them say, all the $50 million for public improvements they're putting in, but the firehouse is something that we felt we could fund out of the revenue. And with that, we will move on to bills and claims. What's that? Sure. not allowing for free speech. There's Robert's rules and there's a process to make sure not to rules, make sure that we maintain order and timeliness at meetings. It's not intended to suppress anybody, and Councilman Griffo is very well aware of that. So I will let our town attorney talk about that.
Well, we do have as a tradition, not as part of our ordinances, that we follow Robert Rules of Order. That's been the case since Councilman Laporta was a councilman and I was a mayor. But in addition, in our code book, we have specific provisions, and I cited 2-66. I should have also cited 2-64. 2-66 deals with the presiding officer controlling the meeting and controlling recognition of the public to speak for up to 5 minutes. And the person can only speak upon recognition by the presiding officer, who is you, the mayor. And as well, under 2-64, there is a requirement that if anybody on the council seeks the floor, in other words, seeks to be heard, they have to receive the recognition of the presiding officer, and that's you. So effectively, Mayor, and I'm not just saying this because I was once one myself, you control how the meeting is conducted. So that's what our local law requires.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, since Councilman Mackey was in, to ask you a question, I would like to make a comment that I was addressed in this report. It was strictly an observation. We all know we're trying to get direct train service, right? So all studies show that we do get direct train service, it will bring people from miles around. We're not going to be able to ride bike 5 miles to get to the train station. So it's something we should evaluate as far as parking. And that's all I was considering. So I just think that's something we should really look at as far as parking.
That's legitimate, and I'm sure you're aware that currently the only people that can park in our lots are Westfield residents, and the expectation is that's going to continue. So we hope that's something that we can manage.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman, have the Westfield Place.
Thank you. I'd like to move bills and claims in the amount of $367,971.81.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilman Caltrans, any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried. Next on the agenda is reports of standing committees, beginning with the Finance Policy Committee. Councilman Hackett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 6 resolutions that I'd like to move as a package. The first, a resolution authorizing the CFO to refund the street opening cash bond. The second, a resolution authorizing the CFO to refund recreation department fees. The third, a resolution authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute the agreement to renew membership in the Suburban Municipal Joint Insurance Fund. 4, a resolution to approve the corrective action plan. 5, a resolution to approve insertion of special item revenue in the municipal budget for clean energy community energy grant. And the 6th, a resolution to approve insertion of special item revenue in the municipal budget under the community development block grants. So the last 2 items being new items of revenue that we're moving into the budget.
May I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Katz, any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried. Next is the code review town property committee. Councilman Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 resolutions that I'd like to move in as a package. The first one is a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign an interlocal agreement for bulk waste disposal at the Westfield Conservation Center with the Township of Cranford. The second is a resolution to approve 3 children's amusement device licenses.
May I have a second? Second, Councilman Mackey, any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried. And last is the public works committee. Councilman Contract.
I have 2 resolutions to move as a package. The first is a resolution to award a contract for the 2022 leaf collection program. And the second is a resolution authorizing the purchase of a DPW vehicle.
May I have a second? Second. Councilman Mackey, any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.